If you want me to show you how to make one of these out of a couple of 12-ounce aluminum cans, just give me a thumbs up and leave a comment. To make your own pocket alcohol stove, here's really the three main components that you're going to have to make. You're going to have the bottom of the stove, and this is approximately 1.5 inches tall. You're going to have the top of the stove with the burner holes. This is approximately 3/4 of an inch, and you're going to have the inner wall, and again this fits inside. That is approximately 1.5 inches tall as well. Let me show you how to make these parts and then we'll put it together. Here are the tools I'll be using today. For safety reasons, I do have a fire extinguisher. I've got 2 empty 12-ounce aluminum cans, 91% isopropyl alcohol, tape measure, a hacksaw. I do have a Phillips and a flathead screwdriver. That's really more for working my tools. A small pick for opening the vent holes. Made some shims to use. I do have a Sharpie marker, a cordless drill with drill bits. You can use a 1/16 or a 1/8 bit for this project. Some scissors for cutting the aluminum, a stapler, a utility knife. Here are a couple that I've already completed, so you see what it looks like. These are some shims, and I'll show you what those are about. And of course, you'll need your utility knife blade. This is an aluminum pie pan, and this is for putting the burner on to light it, because this work table is plastic and it will melt. So you'll see me use this to put the burner on when I fire it up. You'll also want to have a lighter with some type of extension, or maybe even some of those longer fireplace matches to light your fuel when you have it in the burner. We're going to start with 2 12-ounce aluminum cans. These have been emptied, washed out and dried. Also removed the pop top from it. Don't need that on there. You could use soda cans, you could use energy drink cans, you could use larger cans, smaller cans, juice cans, or 20-ounce cans. Just depends upon the size of the stove that you want to make, but for what I do, I've always used the 12-ounce aluminum cans. I like to use this scrap piece of 2x4 for making my jig, because this is approximately 1.5 inches thick. So what I can do is put a little screw into the end of it right there. Take my utility blade and then just screw this down so that it's firm, and that's going to give me an approximate 1.5 inches when I score around the can. Now I'm going to take this and secure it down to my work table so I can use it. That's down firm. Now to make the outer wall and bottom piece, when I've got my jig in place, just put the can down, the bottom side down, hold it firm, and just rotate it against that blade, and what it will do, it's going to give you a nice score mark. It's going to put a little edge into it, little indent into it. Right there. Do that a few times. Now you do want this to cut into the can just a little bit. And as it does, you'll be able to take it off. And because it's scored a line around it, and you've got a nice clean cut. Now you could do this by marking a line, and using your blade to cut it, but I don't think you're going to get that neat of a cut unless you do it with a jig like this. To cut the top burner, I use a similar jig that I've made up. Now this is just a piece of scrap wood that I got off of a wooden pallet. It's not even cut decently, but main thing is that it's 3/4 of an inch thick, and that's what I want my burner to be, is 3/4 of an inch tall. Same as before, just got a little screw. Start this in. Now I can bolt this down to the worktop, and I'll be able to hold this down on the bottom and score and get that top burner part off. For this I'm going to use one of my clamps. Along with some of the hold down dogs there. And again, just hold the can firmly down and score a line. Now we just need to take out this center, and after that we'll do the burner holes. I'm actually going to do the burner holes first before I cut out the center. So what you want to do, get yourself a Sharpie or some other type of marker, put a dot on one side, put a dot on the opposite side, and then do it again there and opposite. Now go in and put a mark between those like that, and then a mark between, whoops, made that one kind of big, didn't I? And a mark between all the others. That will be where your burner holes will be. Now you can use a push pin for these. I actually like to use a small drill bit, a 1/8 inch drill bit. In order to get my drill bit started, I have to take a little punch here, and put a little starter hole in each one of these marks. This way my drill bit won't bounce around as much. It'll have something to dig into. Now I'm doing this before I cut out the center, just so the can has some more stability. See, I'm able to hold it down and keep it from sliding all over the place while I put these starter holes. Now I showed you these tough cases that Craftsman and DeWalt use. You can actually join them together Open that flap up. There's a notch right there, and there's a lip right there. Bolt that down. I just think that's the coolest thing. Anyway, I'm sorry, I said it was a 1/8. It's actually a 1/16 is the bit I'm going to use. It's a 1/16. Now you can use a 1/8. That just makes a bigger flame. Now I'm using a 1/16, but you could use a 1/8. Get the battery pack and we'll be good to go. I like taking a Sharpie at this point again and just etching around the inside. That kind of gives me a reference so I don't cut up too high. Then just take your utility knife, and you could do this different ways. You could use different ways to score it, but I just find that using a utility knife very carefully, because you don't want to cut yourself, slowly start scoring down where your mark is until you have it completely cut out. Again, trying to stay as close on your line as you can. Now this will be for the inner chamber, and again you want it to be cut so that it is 1.5 inches tall, because it has to fit inside of your bottom outer wall. It'll have to fit inside that lip right there. So what you want to do is cut this to the same height, 1.5 inches, the same way. Square the pin around until it's cut through and you can separate them. Had some technical difficulties. What happened was, after I separated that bottom piece, what you want to do is take a pair of scissors, I'm just showing you what I did, and then cut that strip in two like that. Put it inside itself like this. So what you got to have is, this has to fit inside that little lip inside the can so that your burner holes are on the outside. This is your inner wall. Same thing with this. There's a little lip down there in the bottom. This has to fit inside of it. That creates the capillary effect for the fuel to come up through the burner holes. Now there's a couple different ways that you can secure this, because obviously you can't do that with it loose. What I like to do is get it to the size that I need it to be by placing it down inside the lid or the top. Okay, get it to where I want it. Then I'm going to staple it, just a regular old office stapler. Get that down there tight, take it out, got my stapler, just going to put a staple in it. right there. Put another one on the other side. Should get that squared off. Staple. Staple. And a staple. So now this will fit inside of here nicely. And then it will also fit down into the bottom nicely, like that. Now you do want to cut a couple little notches in the bottom here so that the fuel will have a way to get up into the outer wall. So I've got one there. Let's do another one right there. Be careful because this metal can be sharp. Let's just do a third one right there. Now this goes on the bottom where you cut your notches. This will go in the bottom, in there. And then this will go on top, and I'll show you how to best get these two to join up using some shims. I've already scored around the can approximately 1.5 inches up the side. Now I'm just going to cut this out along that scored line. These do not have to be perfect because these are just the shims. When you have that out, cut you a small piece off there, another small piece off there. Round these corners off. And there's your shim. Now a good tip to help this top fit over the bottom and the outer wall is to just take an empty can and try and stretch that top piece out as best that you can by kind of wallering it around and get it to stretch just a little bit so it'll fit just a little bit better down in there. Alright, let's start putting this together. You want to get your inner wall and make sure that you've got your weep holes at the bottom. Take your burner top and position this in there so that it's snug around that lip. And that all of your burner holes are accessible. When you have that down there, now you want to put on the bottom, and this is where you're going to need the shims. To make it a little bit easier, I'm just going to bend the edge down here just a little bit, and that should be able to help me get that top on there. See, it's seated down all around the top. Let's put some fuel in it. See if it'll light. All right, before we light this up and see how this burner works, we need to talk about safety for just a few seconds here. This is going to be an open flame. This burner is going to get hot. Now, I am in an open garage. I am by the front door. There are no flammable liquids in the vicinity. I also do have the First Alert Easy Spray fire extinguisher right here at the ready if something were to go wrong. I will leave a link down in the description below where you can get one of these yourself. The fuel that we are using in this alcohol burner is 91% isopropyl alcohol. I believe you have to use at least 90% alcohol in order for this to burn. I have tried to use other fuels in this, fuel additives and stuff like that. Methanol burns clean, so you cannot use any methanol products. So I think it's probably best just to stick with the isopropyl alcohol. Now, it does not take a whole lot of this alcohol in here. In fact, I'd recommend that you do not fill it full. Maybe half an ounce or so is just about all you need. It will need to warm up before the flames start coming up through the burner holes. There it is. Now you see that flame right there coming down the side? I've got a leak because the can is dented. One of the things you can do to keep this from happening is wrap it with some tape that is designed for heat applications. Do not use electrical tape or masking tape or any type of rubberized tape, because that burner is hot and it will melt and start a fire that you don't want to have on your hands. But they do make a metal tape that you can use to seal those up. You could also use JB Weld or some other type of heat adhesive to seal these up better. This one's just put together without any adhesives. I hope you guys found this information helpful. If you did, why don't you give this video a thumbs up. Leave me a comment down below too. Share it with your friends, and if you're not a subscriber yet, why don't you go ahead and subscribe right now. You guys have a blessed day.